Can't say Q, will you? Hey, what's up, friends? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast. Let me adjust here. It's the first day of training camp 2025, and we're welcoming all of you who are on YouTube Live. Ironically enough, this was talked about for, I'd say weeks, that we were going to do a YouTube Live for these podcasts during camp, and I just showered up and dried off here at the office and wandered around, got myself a coffee, and then I realized it's live, you idiot. So I apologize to everyone who showed up at 4 o'clock because I'm a dunce and wasn't there for you. But Phil's here, and Phil was sitting there the whole time. He's right over there. You could see him right in the other chair.
Just hanging out.
So we're going to bring him in a second. But for now, we want to talk about today's first training camp practice, in which there were no pads. And it was a very limited minicamp OTA feel to it. But this being day one, it's a ramp-up period. But am I getting Phil? Are you going to cut this so I can see Phil?
I'm here.
I know, but I can't see you.
That's okay. I'm right next to you, though. Just look at me.
People seeing it?
Yeah, I think so. People
oh, okay. See, that's not how it usually works. It's YouTube Live's going to be all.
Don't get flustered. This is okay. We're just figuring things out. It's day one of camp for everybody, Tom. Don't you know?
Don't be another repeater. Let's have you here at 4 o'clock and understand that they'll take care of the cutting. Phil. Drake Maye was front and center today, had a very good period in 11-on-11 in this, albeit abbreviated practice. We'll go through his numbers. But he also, I thought, oozed some confidence and comfort, and his leadership, which we've talked about a lot going back to last summer to now, is certainly being embraced, and in a comfortable way. Here's Drake Maye at the end of his press conference talking about what he wants to see this season.
What excites me most? I like that question. I think you got guys around here that are tired of losing around here, and the guys that want to win. I think that's what excites me most. We guys want to win around here. I think the past 2 or 3 years around here, and the past year for me, I can only speak for myself, but I think there's guys around here that are tired of losing and want to win.
All right, Philly. He really sounds like, and he's accepting kind of the burden of leadership and take it to the whip a little bit. To put it against this horse he's behind and make it move a little faster.
Yeah, he should be, and he needs to be. And I think Mike Vrabel even is focused on helping Drake Maye get to where he needs to be as the quarterback of this team and somebody who is going to lead this team, a team that should be competitive and competent in 2025. Let's call it what it is. I thought his last answer at the press conference, Tom, was one of the most telling, where he's like, their guys are tired of losing, around here. And if you go back to a year ago, he never would have been comfortable enough to speak for his teammates in that way. He was just kind of happy to be here, happy to defer. Much different guy this time around.
How do you think Maye looked today on the field throwing?
I thought he was sharp. I thought he was accurate and on time for the most part. It wasn't the best day in terms of pass protection, Tom, which maybe you would expect to a degree in a practice like today's where there are no full pads. And so that may end up shaking out just fine. Let's wait. In my opinion, let's wait to really gauge what's going on the offensive line until the pads come on. But for a guy who had bodies around him today, I thought he was on point. He completed 8 of 9 competitive throws by my count. He did have one throw deep down the field that was almost picked off by Jabril Peppers, was dropped, should have been picked. I think on that rep, even if you wanted to scratch it out, I would get it because he was sacked, quote unquote, sacked on that play by Keon White. But overall, he put the ball where it needed to be. Not a lot of head-scratching mistakes. And so for day one of camp, I thought it was a pretty good job by the offense.
Does it matter if he feels comfortable? Does it matter if he feels confident? Does it matter if he seems like the point of the spear, which, Mayo wanted him to be last summer, and he eventually embraced that after they put the spurs to him. And you reported that first last summer. They wanted him to be a little bit more commanding and take the job. And certainly Vrabel has not limited the amount of time. He's talked about him wanting to be a leader. But why does it matter, Phil?
Well, he's the guy who's leading them, especially offensively, right? Everything starts with him. The entire operation rides on his ability to make good decisions and to execute in real time. And so when everyone else is looking at you, not to just make the play calls, but to make the right play at the right time, even if you're only in your second year, and even if you've got some other guys on offense who have done a lot more than you have in this league, you are by default a leader. And he was last year too, Tom. And I thought he actually, there were times where he stepped up eventually and got to that part of the job. I remember before that Bears game where, everyone was talking about teammates, coaches, about how he went to the front of the offensive room and he talked to his teammates about how they just had a crappy practice. And the rest of the practices that week were good, and they go to Chicago and they win a game in Chicago. So he's shown flashes of it in the past. I think Mike Vrabel just wants more. He wants more, and I think he wants to hear more from him. I don't know if that part of it is as natural as his playmaking ability, for instance. Being more vocal, being louder, I think is something he's going to be working on this year.
Yeah, and I don't want to lead the witness, but you had talked about how Vrabel said, look, there's going to be periods of time when there's just a moment in between on a TV timeout or whatever. You have to make your point and make it quickly to whoever's around you. You might have a short drive. You better make sure that everyone is aligned. And it's funny because you have – is he a 3-time MVP? Lamar Jackson, or a 2-time?
I think two. Yes, I think two.
Two at least. Could have been 3. I didn't vote for him. But when you look at Lamar Jackson, what has he spoken about in this offseason about being somewhat regretful that he didn't adopt? It was the vocal leadership. Because every friggin' guy in the locker room, I wish I had a dime for every guy who's ever said, I like to lead by example. If everybody leads by example, it's like you could be in a Benedictine monastery. Somebody's got to pipe up. Somebody has to say something. Somebody has to grab a group by the throat and say, this is the direction we're going. Everybody come with me. So, to me, I think it is a good thing.
Yeah, and you just want to make the most of your time, too, right? How many clips have we seen of Tom Brady over the years? And it's an impossible standard to try to live up to, but it's a standard that Mike Vrabel is familiar with. These clips of Brady just walking up and down the sideline in between series, talking to his offensive linemen, talking to his receivers. Like, those are the moments that I think Mike Vrabel is trying to get Drake Maye to maximize. And I think if he's able to do that, you pair that with what is a really good physical skill set and a really good offensive coach that he has in Josh McDaniels, who's going to sort of, usher him along through this new system. I think you could get really good results this year.
We look at this team right now, and one of the biggest question marks and one of the things we are going to monitor throughout training camp with our wide receiver watch is the wide receivers. And one of the most important wide receivers who could stand to break the snap of coldness and ineffectiveness at the wide receiver position among drafted Patriots would be Kyle Williams. 3rd-round pick. He's a little burner. People love the way he competes. And today he had one of the best plays of the day, if not the best offensive play, in a day that was a little short on 11-on-11 activity. Here's Drake Maye talking about this particular play.
Yeah, Kyle. I mean, he's backside one-on-one with Gonzo. He made a big-time catch, strong hands. I told him to maybe sell a little more, just try to, give him a go-route feel. But I think he's coming along. He's looking good. I told Gonzo that I'm going to come at Gonzo. I'm not going to, backside. I'm not going to, leave him out here bored at practice. So I'm good for, a rookie to make a play like that. And I think he's just going to get better and better.
Kyle Williams, to me, is a huge X factor in this team because he's smaller. Phil and I both observing it today, watching the positional drills. He's barely bigger than Demario Douglas. I mean, I don't know what the weight situation is. Demario Douglas probably pushing 185, but Kyle Williams is not much taller. He's certainly not that much thicker, and you're looking at him as a downfield receiver possibly. He showed excellent ball skills today, and I know that was a concern a little bit as he came out of Washington State.
I nailed it.
Oregon State.
Well, listen, they've got an Eastern Washington guy on the roster now as well, and Efton Chisholm. So
I almost made him a Beaver. But if you look at what he can contribute and what he did contribute today, really good start because he is a little bit pivotal. I don't care who he makes irrelevant. I don't care who he makes obsolete. Just be a good player.
Well, here's why he's an X factor is because, and it's an apt term to use for him because he's one of the few guys on the team, Tom, who has an X receiver's skill set. Now, he is not the prototype because of that size that you mentioned, but the ability to shake free from press coverage at the line of scrimmage, that was something he showed as a collegian, but also I thought really excelled in. It was an area he really excelled in at the Senior Bowl, going up against some of the best corners in college football. The ability to shake free at the line. His release package, I think, is advanced for somebody his age. And then he has speed that, let's face it, not many on this roster do. Tom, how many guys are threats to quote-unquote take the top off the defense, and you can mock that as much as you want. But
Javon should be.
It is a factor in terms of how opposing defenses play. Javon should be, but he's so inconsistent everywhere else. I don't even know if he's going to sniff the 53-man roster this year, Tom. It's Kyle Williams and maybe Mac Hollins when he comes back and he's healthy. But Mac Hollins is on PUP right now. So he's taking advantage of maybe some open reps. I think he's going to play a lot on the outside this summer, and today he got off to a great start.
I can't wait to see Mac Hollins because I can't remember the last time I saw a 6'4", 220-plus pound receiver running around for the Patriots on the outside.
And
So it'll be
fast.
fun. And fast. So he had a good year. Mac Hollins did. Don't forget, he's the guy who was mainly a special teamer with the Bills last year, but he had a very good season with Josh McDaniels in Vegas the prior year. We will get to Drake Maye and his comments on Stefon Diggs in just a minute because we spoke to both of them today. Diggs was interesting as hell. But first, we have to make note of the down news that was in the wide receiver position, and that's Jalen Polk. Everything riding on his camp this year. If he wants to stick around here in New England, he needs to show up. If this is a camp in which he is ineffective, incapacitated, get any other ins? Not influential.
In vogue.
And if he has influenza, I will invoke
Wow, look at you. English major.
an interpretation.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
we get it.
He's got to do something, and the fellow wasn't on the field. I know, sorry about that. And the fellow was not on the field today, which is actually a departure from what we saw during minicamp and OTAs, where he actually did positional drills and then was excused down to the rehab fields. Coming back from a shoulder surgery, no Jalen Polk, no bueno for his. I mean, it's for first day, Tom. He could light it up for the next 38, but no bueno for today.
No bueno, and it does make you just the sequencing of this whole ordeal makes you wonder if there's some kind of setback or maybe he's dealing with a different type of injury now, Tom, because he was out there and running around. It almost felt as though they just wanted to give him more time before he did any competitive periods against opposing defensive backs, and they just were guarding against in the spring him potentially getting somebody's hands on him that might have aggravated the shoulder injury because he was running around, looked like at full speed, running good routes on air. I get it. It's on air. Hard to take a whole lot away from that. But he did way more in the spring, Tom, than he did today. And he wasn't on PUP. He wasn't on NFI. We've seen guys, Carlton Davis is a good example, was on NFI for one day. And he was practicing out there today. And so, like, why not do that with Polk if you thought there was any chance he might miss a little bit of time? To me, this comes as a surprise. And again, based on the fact that he wasn't put on either of those reserve lists before the first practice, is a little bit of an indication that maybe it was a surprise to the Patriots too, or maybe just in the last couple of days being here in New England, maybe while working out, maybe he tweaked something that isn't allowing him to practice.
Feel like we'll need to get to the bottom of that.
Agreed.
Meanwhile, the receiver that most people have their eyes on most, just say the friggin' sentence. Meanwhile, Stefon Diggs, good receiver. People want to see how he does. He spoke to us today. He also, Phil, had an impact on the very first play in 11 on 11s. Just speak the sentence, get to the point. Phil, what did he do on that play?
On that play, first play of 11 on 11s, Stefon Diggs runs a little under route. He runs away from the aforementioned Carlton Davis and man-to-man coverage. Drake Maye hits him running across the middle, and he's able to streak upfield. It was a nice play. Got a big pop from the crowd in attendance. I thought it was a pretty good crowd in attendance, Tom.
It was. I would say 97% full over in the bleachers.
Yeah, no doubt. So just the fact that he's out there is impressive to me and surprising, honestly, to me, to come back from that injury in such a short period of time at his age, where he's going to be 32 in November. That's surprise number one. Surprise number two, he's as full a go as he appears to be and as effective as he was today. He had another catch a little bit later in the practice. But if he can be the old Stefon Diggs, Tom, that's the difference to me of a couple of wins maybe for this Patriots team because they have no obvious number one. I still am sort of lowering the bar.
Right. Phil says 1,100 yards.
For him relative to other people in the media who are telling me he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I don't see that just yet, but he looked good today.
He did look good today, and he was actually pretty fun to talk to. And it's interesting when you look at the number of guys. The Patriots really had very few guys who had experienced great success. There were a few. There was Joe Cardona. There was, Juwan Bentley was still on the roster, was part of a Super Bowl team in
Dietrich
16
Wise.
and 18, Dietrich Wise. But they've got an influx of guys who've had more recent impacts. Carlton Davis winning a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, Milton Williams with Philadelphia just a few months ago, and Stefon Diggs with the Bills playing in games of great import. So to me, it's interesting to watch this influx of new, talented, of new leadership, I should say. And Diggs, I think, is a part of that. And it's interesting. Here's a quote from Drake Maye as he was talking about the leadership and earning the trust, or he was actually asked, do you trust Diggs yet? and Maye was smart enough to flip it around. Here's his response.
What about working with Stefon Diggs? Is that exciting for you?
Yeah, anytime, an all-pro and a player like that, he made some plays out here today. It's awesome being able to throw to a guy like that, and even when you feel like he's not open, he's gonna go make a play for you. And kind of tight coverage, he's strong receiver, gonna make plays. And I think it's we got a bunch of those guys in the room that are kind of earn their role and find their role.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. All those guys who are trying to earn trust. And he also said a little later, there's certain players, when talking about trust, he said, I think there's certain players that have trust right when they come in. Garrett Bradbury and Big Morgan Moses up front. Guys like that have been in this league, played a bunch of starts. Mac Hollins, Hunter Henry. Those guys you trust. Trust is basically me kind of earning my trust with them. It's really me earning their trust and me kind of making them feel like they can trust that guy back there. I think those guys already have it built in with what they've done in this league. It's interesting, like Garrett Bradbury, we're talking about whether or not he's going to be a guy who's going to lock down the center position and be a staple there. Morgan Moses, 34 years old. The Patriots have done what they could in a tight market to try and staff leadership positions with guys where they needed them.
Isn't it interesting, too, if you reflect on last year, how many of those players that they had walked into training camp with trust from their quarterbacks just by dint of who they were and
right.
what's on their resume? And I asked that to Maye as sort of a follow-up to the initial Stefon Diggs question was, do you already trust it? Like, first pass, first competitive play in training camp goes to that guy. Right, you only threw 8 or 9 competitive passes today, period, but a couple of them go to Stefon Diggs. You barely worked with the guy. Do you just trust him just because he's got 8,000 catches on his resume? Like, I would think you do, and he basically said exactly that. And he understands, and I think because he is a good teammate and he's used to playing team sports and he's used to growing up with a bunch of brothers that, just because he's the quarterback doesn't mean that he's going to have everybody else's trust. He has to do the right things in these moments in practice, especially early in training camp, to make sure that those guys that he's throwing to or those guys that are protecting him believe that he's going to do the right thing at the right time.
Was Bourne out there at the start of camp last year, or was he still coming back?
He was not. No, he missed several games, too, at the start of camp.
So
with
your
that
most
torn ACL.
experienced wideout last year as you came back was, I'm blanking, Douglas? I mean, who'd you take the field with at the start of training camp last year? While you noodle on that, I'm going to actually...
Keyshawn Booty, Jalen Polk.
Yeah, Javon Baker. Who was the wide receiver contingent starting camp? Poor Alex Van Pelt. But not only that, when we talk about the leaders, there were guys who came in last year among the leaders with a boatload of issues. Matthew Judon, one of your prime leaders, mad because other guys got paid. Where's mine? Where's mine? Same with Devon Godshaw. Christian Barmore gets paid. Devon Godshaw's wondering where's mine. It's a really shitty way to start the tenure for Gerard Mayo, where he's trying to stomp out brush fires and deal with PR situations that he really hasn't negotiated and doesn't know where the bear traps are that he's about to step into if he doesn't address it well. I thought he did a great job with Judon. The Patriots folded their tent and gave Godshaw more money. But it's the tone, the tenor, the players, the group, what Vrabel has clearly articulated that he expects from them, as opposed to being a guy who was elevated from within the program, is really telling, isn't it?
It is. And just to answer your question, it was the immortal. How could we forget KJ Osborne? Most experienced guy, unless you're counting, Tyquan Thornton, who was around for a little bit and played a handful of snaps himself. Two guys who were gone midseason.
It's unbelievable how I can contort myself in March and April to see that some guy's going to make a difference. Remember Kirk Cousins said, I think he's going to have a good time over there. KJ Osborne, he was our number 3. But
you know what, though? It's not your fault. You covered a team that for 20 years was able to make do with pretty much whoever they had. I think now we're realizing that they did have some pretty talented people in place. The Troy Browns and the Deion Branches of the world, when people didn't think this was necessarily the most explosive offense of all time. And it wasn't. Tom Brady made it great, but he had some pretty good players that the Patriots would be really happy to have right now.
That might be the title of my autobiography when I wrap it up. Tom Curran, it's not my fault. All right, we haven't gotten into any real live activity in terms of practices to really highlight much in terms of personnel or star of the day or guys who really sucked. It's tough to suck when they're not tackling to the ground. And it's not that obvious, but let's do it anyway.
Well, I think we should. We should.
Hit it.
All right, so star of the day, I'm going to go with Drake Maye. It's the obvious choice, but to me, for him to throw the way he threw, as accurately as he did, with pressure around him. I thought there was pressure off the edge when he threw that near pick to Jabril Peppers. There was pressure on a corner blitz on that throw to Kyle Williams that you described earlier, which I thought was the play of the day. There's a corner basically in his grill. He steps up and he throws a strike on the outside against one of the best corners in football. That to me is the quarterback making that play happen. Needs the receiver to do the right thing, no question about it. Worth highlighting. But the quarterback is the one who makes that thing go. And I thought he did a good job taking a profit, Tom. There were not that many throws down the field. And to me, that might be something that we see as an evolutionary part of his game moving forward. With Josh McDaniels, does that short to intermediate throw become more a staple of what Drake Maye wants to do, a guy who's so talented throwing the ball down the field? Is he more willing to see it and throw it than he was maybe as a little bit younger player because of the guy who's in his ear as coordinator? All
right. That still didn't answer. Who sucked?
Okay. You want me to give you my 3 down from the day? Because we did do a stock watch column. It's going to be on NBCSportsBoston.com very, very soon. Drake Maye was stock up. Stefon Diggs was stock up. Kyle Williams was stock up. Stock down, Tom. Pass protectors for the aforementioned reasons. I think Will Campbell was on the scene for one pressure. Jack Westover, backup tight end, was on the scene for that corner blitz that got into the backfield on Drake Maye. Harold Landry was sort of at Drake Maye's feet at time, and there just was consistently off the edge, whether it was DeMontre Jacobs or Morgan Moses or Will Campbell, just people buzzing right by Drake Maye. And it's hard to know. Would those have been sacks, or would those have been plays where the defensive player has to run around the quarterback because he's gone too wide, and the offensive lineman's actually done a good job taking a good angle and run him up the field? I don't know. And neither does Tom, and nobody really does because we don't have benefit of replay the way these guys will when they go back to the facility. But other downs include Josh Dobbs, who was rough today, threw an interception to someone named DJ James, young cornerback out of Auburn. Good job by him. Not a great job by the backup quarterback. He went 2 for 6, Dobbs did today in competitive periods. And I also had Jalen Polk as a stock downer.
Fair. All fair. And when will we get into a conversation? Let's hold off on the what are they going to do? Are they really going to go into the NFL season with a straight face with Josh Dobbs as their backup? He has to stink much more than now, and as he did, very tepid at best reviews that I had for Josh Dobbs during the spring. But I need to see him stink in joint practices, and I need to see him stink in a preseason game before I start to say, all right.
Oh, yeah. Because the reality is...
Remember the Bailey Zappi? I mean, could you imagine that they went with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi as their quarterback contingent? And they had friggin' Matt Corral coming through here. And
the Matt Corral era. Short-lived.
It's the quarterback position in the National Football League. It's the highest level of football on the planet.
It is, but don't you think that most backup quarterbacks are going to be about Josh Dobbs' level skill set?
Yeah, you can put I would say that among backup quarterbacks, Josh Dobbs, unfortunately, is probably in about the 50th percentile.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, of that 32, you'd say there's probably half or worse, maybe more than half, maybe less than half or worse. But you want to get somewhere in the 70th percentile, I think.
What will make this discussion really interesting is when we start to see, if we start to see, and I haven't seen him yet, Joe Milton highlights from down in Dallas. If he starts tearing it up this summer down in Dallas, does that conversation get resurrected?
I couldn't see that happening here. Once something happens here, we just move on.
We just leave it alone forever.
Speaking of moving on, this is our first YouTube Live. Let me call my guy E and John Henry. Are we taking comments, questions, criticisms, anything like that from the people yet? Not today, maybe tomorrow.
Ooh.
Hey, thank you, everybody, for jumping on with us. Heat's going to go up. The Patriots will be back at it again. They will again be in shells tomorrow. No Vrabel, but we'll probably have... Milty Williams was good today, too. We might roll back some Milt Williams sound, both from him and from Vrabel on Milt Williams. Really likes that guy. So we'll at least do some Milt Williams conversation. Keep an eye on him as well. Wide receiver watch, we will continue that. Phil will keep up with the stock up, stock down, and the Maye watch. And we'll keep you guys all up to date. And we will be starting at 4 o'clock. So Dinkus will be in his seat, ready to go, and understanding how the cameras work, so I don't have a mini meltdown and get that little film of sweat because I get over-exercised about how things are going.
Saw that. We'll be better tomorrow. Promise.
No further ado. Goodbye.